Okay. Right, good morning everybody. My name's Jean Coltaz. I'm presiding member for the Metro Inner Development Assessment Panel today. And part A on the agenda, I'll open the meeting at 9:30 a.m. And in doing so, I acknowledge we are hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia. Pay respects to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. This meeting will be run in accordance with DAP Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development Assessment Panel's regulations of 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of the Planning and Development Assessment Panel's regulations 2011. Members are reminded to announce their name and title while speaking. During the meeting, panel members may refer to technical devices to assist them in considering the information before them. Members present at the meeting, myself, presiding member, Dale Page to my left as deputy presiding member, and Mr. Peter Lee, specialist member. And from the City of Vincent, we have Councillor Ashley Wallace and Councillor Nicole Wolfe, and for Part C we have Councillor Glenn Cridland from the City of South Perth. Item 2 on the agenda, apologies. Councillor Bronwyn Moore from the City of South Perth. Item 3, members on leave of absence, there are none. And item 4, noting the minutes. Minutes of the previous meetings are available on the DAP website. Moving to Part B of the agenda, City of Vincent. In doing so, I'll ask all panel members to note that they have duly considered all of the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and Part B related information by raising their hands. Thank you. I don't have any disclosures of interest at this point. Do any other panel members have a no? Was this item considered at council? No, thank you. All right, then item 3 on the agenda, we have the DAP application for number 5 Bruce Street, Leederville, proposed aged and dependent persons dwelling. We do have a presentation from Mr. Carlo Famioni on behalf of opponents. Carlo.
Thank you.
Only you have 3 minutes for your presentation. We have all seen it, so if you speak to the item rather than...
Yeah, no problem. No, thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'll keep it brief because the report prepared by the City of Vincent is fairly detailed, and I think you've seen my presentation as well, the written component. The application proposes to build 6 multiple dwellings for special disability accommodation at 5 Bruce Street. It's a 3-storey building. 4 of the units will be platinum level, 2 of them will be at silver level. Like I said, the report by the City of Vincent is quite in depth. We've gone through the conditions of the report and the recommended conditions. Certainly support and welcome the recommendation for approval and the conditions that are being imposed or recommended as part of the report. We've gone through them. The client doesn't have any issues with them, and nor do I. So we're quite supportive of. Just going through a bit of the process of the application itself. It has gone through a fairly lengthy process and obviously a lot of communication and consultation with the City of Vincent throughout the duration of the assessment period, and certainly thank the City of Vincent for their efforts in understanding that we needed to get this right. If we look at the DRP table, you can see the progression from our first concept on this site, had a lot of reds and a lot of yellows to the third meeting that we went to, had a lot of greens. So it's gone through a very lengthy process and a series of amended plans to try and address not only the design issues, the planning issues, but also the comments received during the public advertising period. The area itself is going through a transitional phase. The street itself is got a mixture of the older character type homes all the way through to new group dwellings and emerging multiple dwelling developments. It's certainly within close proximity to Oxford Street, which has a large number of commercial type elements. So the building itself is fitting in with the anticipated character and built form within the area. Looking at the planning framework, it is, you've got the scheme, you've got the built form policy, you've got the draft leadable structure plan area. So there's a fair bit of, there's a few layers of planning framework to go through. We've gone through that with the city, and we've addressed quite a few of the standards. There are some variations that we are seeking, but as outlined in the city's report, they have merit, and we certainly address the principles. So to conclude, like I said, I'll keep it short. Very supportive of the recommendation and the conditions, and we hope the panel can resolve to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlo. Panel members, I'll invite questions of Mr. Famiano. Yes.
Thank you, Carlo. I'm Nicole Wool from the City of Vincent. It's obvious that there's been a lot of work that's gone into improving and refining the design. As it sits now, what do you believe the ongoing impact will be on neighbours of the sort of continuous staff movements?
There's only one staff that is attending the site. A lot of these types or the special disability accommodation developments have quite a few staff that come and go from the site. This has only got one. So I don't think that that's going to be too much of an impact. It would be similar to if a visitor is attending the site. So yeah, we've tried to keep everything down to the middle.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, you mentioned there's only one staff, but there are two officers.
There is. So that staff member uses the office on each level to attend to those each level.
All right, thank you. No further questions of Carlo. Panel members, do you have any questions of the staff? Yes, Dale.
Just a couple.
Yep.
A couple of minor things, if you don't mind, just for my own understanding. So condition 3.2 relating to the colours, material, finishes, doesn't get to leave room for minor deviations from the schedule. That could be problematic during construction or during future maintenance. And I'm talking a few years down the track if they want to repaint and change the colour slightly and so on. And the reason I raise this is I've experienced this before where there was a bit of pushback when it was really only a minor change down the track. Would you be comfortable for us to look at tweaking this condition so that it would read the colours, materials and finishes of the development shall be in accordance with the details and annotations as indicated on the approved plans which form part of this approval. Prior to occupation of development, the development must be finished and thereafter maintained in accordance with the schedule provided to and approved by the city, unless otherwise agreed by the city.
Through the chair, we would have no issues with the change to that condition to embed some of that flexibility down the track. Yeah, no issue with that. It's kind of a standard practice that we do try to accommodate that flexibility anyway and take a bit more of a pragmatic approach later down the track. That's kind of reflected in a few of our other conditions, including the landscaping plan and the like. So yeah, no problem with that.
Okay. And then talking about flexibility, and this confused me a little bit, condition 4.1 dealing with landscaping contains some very specific numbers. So for instance, the provision of 13.89% of site area or 91.4 square metres as deep soil areas. So why do you feel the need to be so specific in the condition, and what if those areas need to change ever so slightly during detailed design implementation?
Sure. So through the chair, we are very specific to reflect what has been provided on the plan. So that's really around the exact deep soil zones that are provided on the ground floor. But the earlier part of the condition also talks about generally in accordance with the landscaping plan. So again, there's some flexibility. We would really be looking at the stage of prior to commencement of development that the landscape areas are the same as what has been approved. So while it is specific, we would be again taking that pragmatic approach at looking at the same areas. If there was a decrease in the deep soil zones, we would be asking the applicant for an amendment. But we are flexible with the accommodation of types of plants and trees due to availability and whatnot. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions of the staff? Okay, if not, thank you, Mr. Famiano, and staff. Okay, well, we'll move on to the report in the agenda, and so the panel can discuss it and determine it. I need to move it and second it. Do I have a mover? Yes, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, second.
Dropped it.
Second, thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Okay, Councillor Wolf, you speak to the item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm supportive of the city's recommendation. I think the proposal does deliver much needed specialist disability accommodation in a central location. And in this location, it's close to services, it's close to public transport, and it's close to the community, which is also important. And there is really still an absolute shortage of high quality accessible housing for people with significant support needs. So for us as the City of Vincent, I think this is an important step forward. At the same time, I do want to acknowledge that there were legitimate concerns that were raised by residents living nearby. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really encouraging to see that the design has evolved in response to those concerns. And as you mentioned, in the second round of consultation, we saw far fewer objections. And personally, I was also glad to see the Aquad Bay added into the final design as well. I believe that the conditions, as we've discussed, are appropriate and noted that they have been accepted by the applicant. So for me, I think this is about finding the right balance between protecting the local amenity and delivering inclusive housing that fits the unique needs of the residents, as well as into the longer term planning vision for the area. So the community input has clearly helped lift the quality of the design to allow that balance, and as has the work between the applicant and the city over the last few months. And that balance, in my view, has now been reached. Going forward, I think the operational management plan will be really crucial to make sure that the development effectively meets the needs of the residents, whilst also remaining a respectful and well-integrated part of it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wallace is second who used to speak to the item.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll keep my comments, excuse me, fairly brief. I agree with my colleague, Councillor Wolf, has said, this will be a very welcome addition to the housing mix in downtown Leederville. With respect to the built outcome, I probably came down more on the side of the DRP with respect to their comments on built form and scale, sustainability and amenity. However, I acknowledge the city's comments that these items do meet the minimum standards in those regards, and I think there's no reason for amendment or refusal for anything that the DRP's raised. With respect to the mooted amendments, I think some flexibility in the finishes schedule is entirely appropriate. When it comes to landscaping, I do think the city's officers have got the balance right in terms of setting quite rigid minimum outcomes in terms of landscaped areas and other pieces, while allowing flexibility as to how those are configured and their locations, types of plants, that kind of thing. So I do think we will have that condition. But yeah, aside from that, I thank the applicant for a quality proposal and their work through this process with the city, and all of the city's good work again in producing a very well detailed and well reasoned report, and I'm happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor. Panel members, you wish to speak to the item? Yes, Dale.
Briefly, but before speaking to the primary motion, I'd like to move an amendment to condition 3.2 so that it reads: the colours, materials and finishes of the development shall be in accordance with the details and annotations as indicated on the approved plans, which form part of this approval. Prior to occupation of the development must be finished and thereafter maintained in accordance with the schedule provided to and approved by the city unless otherwise agreed by the city.
Thank you. So you moved amendment 1. Do I have a seconder for that? Yes, Mr. Lee. Don't you wish to speak further?
Thank you. The reason is, as worded, I understand there's flexibility, but in another life I did see this challenged on an application where there were some objections to it, and so the way it's currently worded doesn't appear to leave room for minor deviations from the schedule. Could prove be problematic during construction or during future maintenance of development.
Thank you. Mr Lee, as seconder, you wish to speak?
About the amendment?
Yes.
No.
Okay, thank you. Any other that speak then? All right, well, I'll put the amendment. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. So happy to support the recommendation for approval. Although the structure plan hasn't been completely finalised yet, it is the key guiding document for the development, given the centre rezoning or zoning is already in place. I'm satisfied with the city's commentary and positions on the imminence and certainty of the document, and therefore the way that should be afforded to it in considering the proposal. It's a P use under the draft structure plan, and I think everyone would agree that this type of development is generally much needed and in short supply across the whole metropolitan area, actually. So the applicant should be commended for bringing this forward. From the thorough description and assessment provided in the RA and actually also in the applicant's planning report, both of which I commend for their detail and thoroughness, I'm satisfied that the impact of the proposed built form on the adjoining developments is negligible, particularly noting this is an area in transition. Particularly pleased to note the amendments that were made to the proposal following consultation and review by the design review panel, reduced the number of objections from 25 down to 2, and the objections that remain have been adequately covered off and responded to in the city's RA by conditions of approval. The city has also provided very good justification for the few areas of the planning framework where discretion is being sought because the acceptable outcomes or deemed standards were not automatically achieved. So overall, I commend the proposed land use. I think the design is of high quality, responds well to the current environment as well as the future vision of the areas happy to support.
Thank you. Anyone else speak to Mr Lee?
I just reinforce that this is a well-planned scheme. I'm on the board of Foundation Housing, so we run the foyer in Oxford Street. That's this sort of use in this location is an excellent outcome and really good for the community and very good for the people who will be living in there. So highly supportive of this going ahead.
Thank you. I too support the proposal that fits in with the existing and future planning framework. Areas evolving. I too am around the corner from the site, so I understand and see the height and bulk of buildings increasing, reflecting the inner city character of the site. The design reflects the design review panels and applicants' interaction and changes that were made, so they be commended for that. Concerns raised by nearby and adjoining residents have been addressed and reflected in the final design plans. At detail, the areas such as setbacks, overlooking, access, parking, materials supported, as is the use of discretion to support the proposal. So I am supporting it as well. Therefore, I will go back to the mover to close debate on the item. Councillor Wolf, nothing further? All right, I'll put the item, amendment to condition 3.2. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, councillors and City of Vincent staff. Thank you. And Mr Premier. Yeah.
from anyone.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to part C of the agenda this morning, and it's the City of South Perth. Welcome Councillor Cridland to the panel. And I will also ask all panel members that they have duly considered all the documentation contained within part C of the agenda and part C related item by raising your hands. Thank you. Item 2, I have a disclosure of interest. Panel member Dale Page, impartiality interest. The geotechnical engineer who reviewed or co-authored the technical report is known to Ms Page personally, and it's noted that the report is informative document only, and we have given approval to sit. Decisions on the item by the DAP Executive Director. Does anyone else have any item to declare? Councillor, was this item declared considered at a council meeting?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 3 on the agenda, the DAP application for number 31 South Perth Esplanade, 7 multiple dwellings. We do have presentation for this item. We have Mr Trent Will from Planners and Phil Garati. Garati, is that right? Yep, Garati, sorry. From the applicant team. And you have 3 minutes for the presentation, Trent.
Thank you, Mr Presiding Member. Trent Will from Taylor Burrell Barnett. Just a brief presentation today, noting we have a supportive RAR which details the planning justifications. Did just want to speak briefly about the design process and the development application. So it has been a really careful and considered design process that we've gone through. The first design review, which we had prior to lodgement, did raise some pretty critical questions, particularly on the design of the ground floor. The architects have responded to this really well. They effectively redesigned the ground floor plan before lodgement of the development application. The second DRP was very supportive, some fine recommendations, and of course by the third, which was a chair review, the chair had awarded design excellence. So the design really encapsulates much of the history and the context of South Perth Esplanade, and the team was really proud of the outcome. In terms of the planning response, the proposal is broadly compliant. There are a series of minor variations. Those are justified in the RAR. I won't repeat any of that justification, but I did just want to highlight one element which relates to the treatment to the side boundary. So the planning framework allows the podium, the first 2 stories, to have a nil setback to both side boundaries. It then allows the 3-storey tower above that. We felt that approach of going boundary to boundary for 2 stories would be potentially creating an inconsistency with the prevailing character of South Perth Esplanade. There are no 2-storey boundary walls along South Perth Esplanade, and it's typically comprised of 4 to 5-storey apartment buildings that have separation between them. So the design team sort of resisted that temptation for the extra floor space that could have been achieved by developing those 2 stories boundary to boundary, and instead the podium is kept to a single, sensible single-storey podium. So we felt that really responded to the character of South Perth Esplanade. Not only that, there is a good amount of landscaping, 15% deep soil area that's scattered around that ground floor plane. So we felt that was much better than a compliant approach. We feel there's been great respect shown to those site neighbours, and I just mention this because I think it helps to justify quite a few of those variations that are listed in the RAR. So members, just in summary, we have a 5-storey apartment building. It is replacing an existing 5-storey apartment building on the site. The proposal was well received by the community with no objections. We have no objections to the conditions of approval as recommended in the RAR. With respect, I request your support.
Thank you, Trent. Panel members, are there any questions of the opponents? Yes, Councillor.
My question relates to the waste management report and in respect of the proposed curbside collection of the 7 bins on a weekly and then 11 bins on the fortnightly basis. Council has indicated its preference for multi-residence lots to have a single collection on site rather than on the verge. And I note that that was the initial advice from the city, but that changed during your work with them. I was wondering if you had a justification for why, and perhaps it's in the report and I've simply missed it, for why it wasn't feasible to have the single collection point on site?
Yes, we did consider that, councillor. The reason why it wasn't feasible was because the city, as part of that requirement, required waste vehicles to enter and turn around in a forward gear. The amount of space that was required for a truck to turn around is quite large. I think it was about 18 metres in terms of the depth of the reversing space. So that would have, it really would have been needed to be taken out of the landscaping, and we feel it would have been detrimental to the design approach. By contrast, the 11 bins on the 25 metre frontage for 1 day a week, it's only every fortnight that the larger number of bins are across there. We just felt that was the lesser of the two evils, if you like.
That's my only question.
Okay, in that regard, I presume you don't know what times the bins are going to be picked up?
No.
First thing in the morning or anything like that?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. It is proposing, it's not proposing private waste collection just through the city services. I can't recall exactly what the times are, to be honest.
I think at present, sorry, can I just add, I think at present they're just before 7 a.m.
Yes, okay. Well, if
And there'll be a manager on site.
yeah, well, I was going to say if it could be to ameliorate some of that problem is to maybe get the bins picked up first thing or very early in the morning and taken straight back in afterwards. Absolutely. Could be consideration.
I wouldn't have an objection to that, and as Joe's mentioned, there's a full-time concierge on the site as well.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? If not, are there any questions of the staff? Councillor? Yes.
I only have the same question for the staff, and that is noting that as far as the waste management report indicates at least, the city's advice to the applicant changed during your dealings with them from the single on-site collection to verge collection, and I was wondering if you had any justification for that change or any comments on what the presenter has just said on that issue.
Yep, we more or less have the same feeling in terms of the amount of space required on site would have had a significant impact on the design of the development. With the bin collection on the verge, usually it's 8 bins or 40%, whatever's lesser. In this case, it was still occupying less than 40% of the frontage, excluding the driveway. So we felt the impact was within reason, and it also ensures that the city will be able to undertake the residential collection, which is our preference. Where on-site collection is required, sometimes it may necessitate smaller trucks, which would then necessitate private collection. So our view was, it's not obviously everything, but this is probably getting the most out of it that we can, given the circumstances.
That's the only question.
Okay, thank you. Any other further questions? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for your presentation. Panel will now move into debate or discussion on the item. In order to do so, I need a mover and seconder. Do I have a mover? Dale Page. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cridland. Thank you. Dale, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Look, happy to support the recommendation for approval, very thorough report. The multiple dwellings are a permitted use in replacing apartments which have been on site since the 1960s, so nothing new in terms of land use or impact in that regard. I concur with the comments of the design review panel that the design proposal is high quality. I'm also of the view that it warrants design excellence, given the manner in which it has exceeded the standards of the design principles, or most of them, of State Planning Policy 7.0. The areas where discretion is sought because the proposal doesn't meet the provisions of the scheme, the activity centre plan and relevant policies, they've been clearly documented and well justified in the city's RA, and I'm comfortable that despite that, the proposal still meets the objectives of those guiding documents. I'm mostly pleased to see there were no objections to the proposal, and that any matters that have the potential to impact adjoining properties have been addressed through the assessment process and responded to appropriately and via the recommended conditions of approval. So very happy to support this one.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Cridlin, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr Presiding Member. I think it's quite an attractive design. I read the report before I'd looked at the design, and when I saw the amount of discretion sought, in particular in respect of setbacks, etc., I was a bit concerned. But it really does fit in with the surrounding buildings, and the discretion sought does not seem to in any way adversely impact the way the locale looks. I think it's really a first-rate, attractive building to look at, and it certainly fits into that particular area. I asked questions about the bins because the City of South Perth, obviously, as one of the inner city areas, has been required to have significant infill or increase in density. And in some areas, such as along Canning Highway and Canning Bridge, this has been dealt with by more residences on lots and verge side collection, which is why the council at least has taken an adverse view of verge side collection, because if, for example, you go along Canning Highway on the day that bins are collected outside one particular apartment block near the Como Hotel, you can see 40 bins over an area of perhaps 50 metres, which is very unattractive. We have a motto for the city of active places and beautiful spaces, and increased density with bins all over the road is not. Certainly, having verge side collection is not a reason in this case to not approve it. Indeed, it's quite a large verge side, and with the removal of the concrete bin pad, it will only be a short period when grass, which is the dominant feature of the verge there, has some bins on it. So I think 7 bins or 11 bins each fortnight is probably not going to have that much of an impact, although I think the council would remain of the view that for larger developments, and when I say larger, I mean ones with more units, it really is important to not have a streetscape which is just dominated by bins. Doesn't happen here, and I understand the justification of the applicant and the city in respect of saying that verge side collection is fine. It really is a good development, so congratulations.
Thank you. Mr Lee, would you like to speak to the item?
This is from an architect's point of view, it's very good development. I've seen the work of the architects on numerous occasions, judging awards and things like that, and it doesn't surprise me that it's of this quality, and it's a really very good outcome for this part of Perth.
Thank you. I too support the proposal. The development, as we know, achieves design excellence. As with Councillor Cridland, I also looked at the amount of discretion that was being sought, and in a number of areas it's been supported in detail, as each item of the the discretion that was sought, and that's been addressed in their own. I commend the officers for the detail and the reasoning behind the support for the discretion. It was very well laid out and made it easy to comprehend and also support myself. There were no formal objections to the proposal, and any issues raised have been addressed, and therefore I'm also supporting the proposal. That being the case, I'll ask the mover to close debate on the item.
Nothing further to add. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Okay, all right, then we'll put the item to a vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. And I thank the presenters. Item 4 on the agenda, Form 2 DAP application, there are none. Item 5, SAT reconsideration, there are none. So it just behoves me to go to Part D and note the SAT applications. There's a growing list of them. And item 2, I'll close the meeting at 10:06 a.m. and thank the City staff, panel members and presenters. Thank you.
It can happen. Thank you, Miss Alfred.